So, the Impact Show, what the Impact Show is about, it's all about understanding how people make an impact on the world, what kind of impact they want to make, and how we make a difference. You know, today's a massive day in America, and if there's going to be any kind of impact from what's going to happen there, we're all going to be affected. But the reason I wanted to get Penny on the show, because Penny's been very influential in my world. You know, when I left corporate back in 2007 to start my own business, the first networking event I went to was at Academy at the Tower Hill, where I met Thomas and Penny. You probably remember that, I don't know. You do. So, Penny, just for those people who don't know much about you, can you give us a brief summation of your background?
Yes. So, first of all, I think your show idea is absolutely fantastic.
Oh,
brilliant.
Thank you.
I know you're the man to do it, so I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
My background, okay. So when I was 19, I went into technology, into distribution, just the PC was going onto the desk, and worked through that industry in a really lucky way because it was growing so fast, through to being sales marketing director of quite a large company, distributing Hewlett Packard and Microsoft and all the big companies, Intel, DEC. Then stopped working at 28 to have my babies. And then that's where I did a little bit of interim work, but that's where the idea came up of the Academy. And so in 98, we started the Academy, and we ran that till 2012. Global company. We were in 200 countries, 5,000 events all over around the world. And I suppose we trailblazed a lot of things. We trailblazed community blogging, groups, events. Then LinkedIn came in. And that's when Thomas and I really differentiated ourselves, I suppose, as personal brands, really evangelizing this whole subject, not just Academy. And then after we sold Academy, I went into the skills agenda around digital and created Digital Youth Academy, which was bringing the first digital apprenticeship to market, which I'm now very involved in. But I sold that business last year to a great national company, which I know you know, called CTech.
Yep.
And for the last 3 years, I've been working on a concept called the Business Cafe, and that's what I'm now really actually much focused on, which is very exciting, working with Gail Thomas as my business partner.
Okay. Well, I want to go back to Academy, and I really want to just sort of ask you, in your business life and your personal life, what was the impact that being involved with at the start of the social network type platforms, and what impact did that have in terms of your view on business, your view on people, and the digital world as it is now?
That's a brilliant question. I think the first time I've ever been asked that question like that. It's brilliant. I would say the impact was understanding that I could be myself, and that friendship in business was going to be such a powerful force because it enables us to build trust. And I think now more than ever, trust is our biggest asset that we can build around us and our brands. And so I think it was a really nice verification of some of the values I had around business, where I used to be told I was too emotional and too deeply involved and too caring and too sensitive, all these things. And then I realized actually maybe those aren't weaknesses, maybe in a new world those are strengths.
And do you find that as you've moved on to your different way in terms of how you do business and how the OBE impacted in you, is you realize that the impact you are making in the world is bigger than you actually thought originally?
It's so hard, that, Beju, because in a very capitalistic, commercial world where life is so expensive, we can't help but judge ourselves by our financial success. And Thomas and I have been through enormous challenges with that. We're nowhere near fully recovered from the impact that it had, where we put our life into Academy and then it was massively disrupted. I suppose what the OBE did for me was it gave me a little bit of confidence in myself inside, and also I think it was wonderful that it was it celebrated what Academy was. So it was really shared between all the members in my mind, because it meant that some people in authority, if you can put it that way, recognised that what we achieved as a group had impact. And that was lovely.
Like from a personal point of view, when you enter this world of self-employment and solo entrepreneurship, and you realise that there are so many other people in that same domain, and the Academy gave me the sort of opportunity to see that. From the point of view of running that, and then when the academy finished and you started getting recognised about your impact in the digital world through the OBE and the work we did with the government, what do you think that said about the work that you did do during academy in terms of other people's opinion and view of you?
So I don't, I know it sounds a bit wrong this maybe, and I hope it doesn't come across wrong, I don't hold too much store by the fact I was given an OBE, okay. Because it is obviously a huge acknowledgement, but it doesn't necessarily reflect what the people that know me feel about me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that reflects, I don't know, that my name got known in the right places or whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm really not trying to minimise it, because I'm very proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of what impact it's had on my children and Thomas, although I do feel Thomas should have really got it. What really drives me is more about the effect I might be having each day inside the business cafe or when I do a speech. Mm-hmm. And that's where, you know, we talk about social capital. Mm-hmm. And, you know, if I wanted to know that at the end of my life, whether it was this afternoon or I was blessed enough to live longer, I want to know that each individual vulnerable, frightened, excited, passionate entrepreneur realised that it was okay to be yourself and be weak sometimes, be strong sometimes, but have that honesty about yourself, which I think is such relief when you get to that point. And I want to create a community where people feel that, and I think it's happening within the Business Cafe, because the people that are joining it are attracted towards that relief, sense of relief, that I can talk about that.
So we're going to talk about the Business Cafe in a bit more detail later, but I want to touch upon you talked about, you realised there was trust and transparency that was one of the main commodities in terms of how you build relationships. Mm-hmm. With the way the digital world is at the moment, where transparency is everywhere, but good and bad. You know, you look at today. Donald Trump's been sort of into the president of the USA, and there was so much transparency. You think, how could he get voted in? So, what's your view in terms of how the role of digital, not only in business where it's integral, but in people's lives? Because is it a force for good? Is it a force for bad? Do we need to have a different viewpoint in terms of how digital can impact the world for good?
Yeah. So just by the questions you're asking, I could turn this around and ask you, because your insights show what you believe as well. So it's lovely that you give me that voice piece. I do want it to be a force for good. I wrote in 2009 when I wrote my book. The final page of that book is about that. I hate it when it's used as a weapon by others. I think it's really sad, but it's a reality check on human nature. I think it's a force for good when you get into communities of like-minded people, and people treat it as a force for good. And I think we have to take responsibility for who we do connect with, who we follow, and not just throw stones at people. So it is a force for good. It's also a force for good for well-being. So I'm very much into family, and that family doesn't necessarily need to be your direct family. You know, I class you as part of our family, and so do our children, Beju, and therefore family can be that sense of belonging to. And so it is a force for good in that way. And what does family mean? It means that we have a balance in our lives, that we feel good about ourselves, that we feel we're surrounded by good people. And therefore, even software as a service, to me, is a force for good, which is, although it's a piece of technology, if I don't have to have an admin day, and I can actually I can actually create a world around my phone that enables me to, in the gaps in my day, send invoices, check my cash flow, manage my projects on a device, know that I've kept my phone secure, all the amazing software as a service apps, from bookkeeping, CRM, etc., etc., etc. If I've got those skills, that enables me to, if I was still a mum with children at school, that enables me to still go and watch their sports games or attend things, because I can do those things while I'm on the move, not tied to the desk. So force for good around digital is not just the way we connect and the brand we create and the way we treat others online. It's also learning how to use these things to enable us to have balance, and that's really what really really pushes me forward into the more technical side of the digital world, not just digital marketing.
It's interesting you say that, because a lot of people will look at digital and think, well, this is the time where I'm working, I'm digital. To check, I've sent an invoice on my way to dropping the kids to football and coming back, that's like, it's controlling you. But the way you've positioned it is actually, look, the technology, if you use it properly, it can aid you, because there's pockets of time during the day you can dip in and dip out. It doesn't mean you're working or I'm dropping the kids off. So you drop the kids to football, you're waiting in the car park, why wouldn't you check? So it's it's understanding those parameters and knowing what work is, what isn't.
It is. It's about making digital a friend of yours. And I remember when in the 80s going on a time manager course. You remember Time Manager International?
Okay.
And the company sending me on this time manager course. And I came away with all these processes in these tabs in this book. And I started to let it run me. And then somebody said to me, it should actually, although they've created the process, you should create your own process so you're in control of it. And I think that's a really good checkpoint. So I always want to be in control of it, but that's about the skills that I have to feel confident about it, and the friends I have around me that might show me how to use it better, etc.
So you've done some work with the government, you've done some work around sort of digital. What is their view in it? Do they have a different view to us, small businesses, solo entrepreneurs, in terms of the role of digital and whether it should be, this is what it needs to be and then we need to control it? What's their take on it?
Oh, so I spent a lot of time in government in between 2012 and 2014. When I say a lot of time, I wasn't working for them, but I was invited to sit in different think tanks, which had varying impacts on me in terms of frustration. When we break the government down into individual people, they're fantastic. When you put it into the group, they're very policy driven and they have to do huge academic work, and I think it takes them away from understanding you and I.
Right.
And we've gone from when we first started the academy, people like you and I did not feature in the economy. We were totally unimportant. Now they know that 95% of the economy of the business population is made up of micro businesses, and 75% of that are the sole trader. And so obviously, and now that there's the emergence of software being sold not by license but as a service, by subscription, all large companies are starting to realize that you and I matter. Our $6.99 a month matters, because our lifetime value is probably £500, £600. I think there's a long way to go before government can really invest or understand that, and I'm not sure they ever will be able to, because they closed Business Link, they closed a lot of the funding to it, because national health and defence and education is becoming such a huge cost for them. So I believe that business needs to support business, and it's down to each of the brands caring about you and I, because we are ultimately their consumer. And what we've done with the Business Cafe is we've fragmented down how much they have to spend to support us. So we're asking software as a service, people like Sage and Zero and Insightly and Capsule and all these brands that gain by selling to us, we're asking them to sponsor each cafe by £6,000 a year. And if they do that, they get the halo effect, but also our digital apprentices will onboard their apps when asked. So we're not going to have a transactional relationship with them, we're not selling their apps, but we are making sure that you know how to use these apps well. Now that to me is a much better way of funding a community and a support process and a skills process for you and I than a business link or a government supported program.
So the two things I want to touch upon: one, that the government are sort of getting rid of business link and these other services for small business. So then I was going to ask you, it's not like we're on our own, it's up to us then to do what we need to do to support each other. And you find, and is it a case in the government, if they see something really good, then they'll piggyback it and then say, I will support you, but only after we've done the hard graft, as opposed to them being there at the start to help us grow the thing. So it's really interesting.
I'm not a critique of the government, I'm a supporter of it. I really want to support the government, not critique it, and empathise with the challenges they have.
And I get that, and it's a constant to and fro, isn't it? It's a constant to and fro and getting them board. So can I just ask you, how did you come about with the concept of the Business Cafe? Way back when, what was the moment that you thought, this could be an idea, and then how did it start to grow and get to the point whereby it was potentially a viable proposition?
Yeah, Well, it's taken patience. I mean, it's 3.5 years almost since I first came up with the idea.
Okay.
You have to think about where I was at that place. So having understood technology and channels to market for software, and we see how that's changing now because of Google and Apple in the download installs, then working with the academy and learning community. I was then working in this digital youth space. And for us to embrace what will be 50% of the population by 2020, the millennial, there has to be an engagement between us and them. And at the moment, they're sitting within further education colleges or they're coming out of university. So I was working in that space and I could see that there was no bridge. So it was frustrating me as a commercial person because I needed to sell the Digital Youth Academy apprenticeships through the channel, which was the Further Education College channel. And there was this block because they didn't have great relationships. Only 5% of businesses have a relationship with education.
Right.
So how do you? So I was manufacturing them. They weren't even being put on the shelves.
I remember we had a conversation when you were working with some colleges.
Yeah.
And I was sort of trying to say, well, how can we get apprentices? Yeah, there was a frustration there. Yeah. Exactly.
And it continues. That engagement issue continues. So I was sitting in that world, and I was on my way to London on the 28th of October 2013. Walked down Castle Street in Farnham, all suited and booted, quite happy that I wasn't going to be in my pajamas all day doing email. And the train was cancelled. And I was really disappointed, leaves on track or something. So I walked back, and I thought rather than walk back to my house, I think I'm going to sit in Cafe Nero. So I put up my laptop, and excitedly, like I am when I'm sitting in a lift or on a tube, I saw lots of people around me. And I thought, oh, I'm not on my own, I can chat. And when I looked across to talk to other people like me with their laptops on, I thought most of them thought I was predatory and was going to drag them by their hair bedrooms.
Right.
I think they thought I was trying to seduce them. There was no opportunity for me to talk to people who were just like me. So I started to blog. I started to write actually into words. Imagine this was a business cafe. And imagine I could sit across and these people were my friends and I could talk to them about the fact that my mum's got dementia or my dad's this or my dog's dying or I'm struggling with cash flow. And I could just have a chat with friends. And that's how it emerged. And then I started thinking about, well, how could we get young local people from farm and college involved? So it just emerged as an idea. Then the first year I had to properly think about, would people be like me? Would they like that social environment as opposed to an enterprise hub? And then the next year I had to think, how was I going to fund it and talk to the software as a service industry. The next year, Gail was very much in the business and we worked out the business model and created a business plan, always hard work, and created the franchising plan for knowing how to scale and looked for our investors. And now we're entering our 4th year and we're ready to launch.
Right. Sometimes we skip over the from the idea to get to the point whereby it's a viable business, because a lot of people have great ideas, but then getting to the point where it's a viable business. It'd be really interesting just to sort of investigate a little bit is how did you get to the point whereby you got the idea, but then making a viable business proposition, and what is the business model? How does it make money, and where does that work? Because you touched upon it in terms of approaching software companies about how they use the apps, and I think people could really benefit from understanding what your thought process is in terms of where the money comes from and how they can how that model can help them create and grow their businesses.
So the idea was very much concept around an emotional desire to make friends with people locally, because back to being a well-being, loads of us, and I just look at any train station, leave our towns and go to London to feed ourselves. But yet in a local economy where there's on average 2,000 to 3,000 micro businesses and small businesses, why aren't we finding enough to feed ourselves locally? And that's about our ability to network and our ability to create our brand awareness. So that was the idea. How can I spend more time? I was approaching my 50s, more locally, so I can walk my dog and have a bit of a life. Okay. So there's the desire.
Yeah.
Creating the business plan was really important because this is my 3rd business, Academy, then Digital Youth Academy, and all of them were an idea, and I got it going really quickly. And as a result of that, I hit vulnerabilities that I hadn't anticipated. And so I decided with this business I had more time to get it right before I really went into that pain point.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is about working out so cafes, first of all, are notorious for closing down, because so first of all you had to work out how you're going to bring the audience that's going to buy enough coffees and teas to make it viable. And so that's the size of the community that you could create. And then what's going to be the added value to bring somebody there, as opposed to go and sit in a Starbucks or a Costa, and that's down to the culture that you create, but also what else could go on in there that's going to make you want to pop in. So our business model is that I'm hoping that those people that do join, and they don't have to pay for membership, will come at least 5 times a month. So I need to create those 5 reasons. So it might be to sit down with someone and have a chat. It might be to come to a little clinic that an accountant might run on cash flow. It might be just to get out of the house for some reason. It might be to come to a business book club night where we all talk about a business book club. We're going to have a piano in the cafe for evenings. We're going to have got a bookshelf where people can just take books off on and off and put them back on. So it's creating all those touch points, and once we could work those out and test that people like the idea of that, you can then see that as a food and beverage area, it's going to wash its face or make profit. And then it's how do we make money? How do we make money out of it so that I'm not running a charity? And then that's about looking at how do we become a really credible channel to market for the digital industry. And in time, I mean, I want these to be around in 30 years. So is digital going to be the name then? No, it's not. It'll be something else, but there's still skills that we're all going to need. And if you've got the basis of a community, then you adapt to the needs of that community and hope that people are still going to want that channel.
Okay. So you worked out the kind of, people have to come at least 5 times a month, and then the footfall that allows it to wash its face. And are we talking the kind of numbers that maybe Starbucks or Costa or Cafe Nero get?
No, and a lot of theirs, about 40% of their revenue is takeaway, and I'm not sure, we haven't actually budgeted on any takeaway, although maybe you will if you think that the coffee's really nice. Or, I mean, we've gone for high quality provision of food with a contract caterer that we're working with, that we're really proud to be working with, so we can quality control as we scale around the country. And I know that, I know how it's ethically sourced and the values around that. And I'll be able to share that next week we've got a lovely brochure now that we'll share into the group around that food and beverage.
Good.
So it is about, do we create a community? And we've said about 10 to 15% of the business population in a town will use the cafe. And some people said to me, well, why wouldn't the other 85% use it? And other people have said, God, that's a lot. And until we've done one, we're not going to know whether we're barking mad or not.
I see. And from when you got to the idea, you sort of understand the sort of process of the business model from washing its face, and then you said about how we make this profitable, how we actually make it a viable business from allowing other digital companies. So what was the conversations you were having with the digital companies to get them to the point of opening the conversation and them actually saying, actually, do you know what? Yeah, we can support this. Not only just verbally with supporters, but financially. What was that approach?
Well, some of it is that all brands, whether you're Barclays and O2 and loads of brands, have tried creating business communities, and none of us join them really or engage in them because we see them as transactional. We want to individually feel a sense of ownership to a community where nobody's got their own agenda. And so I said, I'm going to, if I talked out, which all of us need to know, our own core competency. My core competency, if all else fails, is I know how to build community and the culture for it. And if Sage's core competency is creating bookkeeping software, and if Yale's core competency is creating website templates or whatever it is, or Google for Business, you plug into the core competency of that company and you say, okay, well, if that's yours and this is mine, how do we work together to build something really fantastic? And I wanted them to feel that it wasn't a transactional relationship with us, because I don't want them going, right, your target is to sell 50 Sage packages, and if you don't, because then our attitude is going to be, oh, Beiju, will you buy the Sage? It can't be like that. So we had to put it at a price point where they can almost throw the money away because they're not that worried about it, but the halo effect of it. However, they've started to realize that if you imagine a pyramid for the software as a service industry, at the very top is installation. So you download an app. 90% of apps are deleted within 90 days, and that's because you don't acquire it. And acquiring an app means that you actually put your email address in, and they can start to engage with you and try and send you to YouTube things and try and get you to use it. Once they've got that, they've got you closer to the point of becoming a customer. The real goal for them, the nugget, is when they retain you. So I use Xero, and we're paying, I don't know, £28 a month on Xero. And now that I've got my bank feed set up and I've got my invoice templates and my quote systems and all my contacts in it, I am unlikely to leave them. But so that whilst they have the distribution process for you downloading from Google Play or App Store, they don't have that onboarding process and all the learning that happens around that user experience, and that's where they see the value in us.
So you're using the business cafe as an opportunity for these tech companies to get on, people to get on board with their software and their technology and use their apps within the business cafe.
So we're putting them on the high street, but in a very gentle way. And my ask of them is that they care, that they actually genuinely care, and so their staff can come and sit in there. And Microsoft love that. Their staff can come and sit in the cafe and talk to you and I.
Right.
Just have a coffee. Instead of sitting in Starbucks in a town, they'll come into the business cafe and have a chat.
Great.
And it breaks down those huge voids that we all have between one another. You know, large company, small company.
Yeah,
we can become friends with them ourselves.
Yeah. So what's the time scale now for the first cafe to be opened, and what's the conversations you're having with people at the end of the pitch meetings in terms of how this is going to work?
All right, so this year, Gail and I want to open 3 cafes.
Do you want to just mention who Gail is, so for the people who don't know?
So Gail is my
she's a wonderful person. I know.
She's everything to me apart from being my husband and my children.
Right.
She's the most wonderful lady who I met in business about 5 years ago and adored. And 3 years ago, I started to talk to her about the business cafe, and she joined as my business partner. So Gail is ops and finance, awesome, but she has the most gentle attitude and experiences and values. So Gail is very important, but she stays in background because she's focused on getting the work done, whereas I'm the noise, aren't I?
Yeah.
So so Gail and I want to open 3 this year, 9 next year, and so we've got a business plan. We've got 25 people who have expressed interest in having a cafe, and we know the business model around them having it. And at the moment, the lowest hanging fruit are councils. And because it's a fully managed service, they don't have to even open the door. So you won't feel like this is a council-run operation. Because once they fund it and get it up and running and own it as a franchise, we hire the community manager, the skills manager, and we take over the whole culture piece. But it's great because from a social impact point of view, they love it. And from a commercial point of view, it will help them to make a little bit more money when they're losing so much money from central government. Our dream, absolute dream, is that we crowdfund at local level. Okay. So that somebody comes in as an ambassador, and we've got some great ambassadors. Wendy Ager is an ambassador for the Croydon area. We've got ambassadors. We've got different people that Academy members coming forward saying, I'd like to do it. An ambassador just creates the stakeholders at a local group and says, at a local level, and says, well, I'd like one in Southend. So who do we need to talk to make them want it? So it feels like it's been locally born and grown.
Yeah.
Now that ambassador can become our community manager, which is a part-time role. We pay them a good salary for that part-time role, and they do that around their existing job. And so it's most likely to be a freelance person who wants to feel like this cafe is there. They're like their landlord of it, but we pay them a salary to be that person. So we're looking for ambassadors, and we've got a process of teaching them how to assemble these stakeholders into a room, and then I go up and present, and then we get it funded.
Okay, and you mentioned the councils as a low-hanging fruit. So you're looking for councils, local authorities to fund the sort of the nuts and bolts of the cafe.
Yeah, I think they're the centre of the community, and business rates are really important to them, and so are the well-being of their local people and the well-being of young people who are going to get jobs there and work experience there. So from a social impact point of view, it gives them a way to support my freelance and micro business. It gives them a way to support young people and build the relationships between business and education. It gives them high street regeneration because hopefully more people are coming in there, and it provides a place for digital skills. And at weekends it can be open to the public. Weekdays business, at weekends it can be open to the public. So I could take my dad in there and get him set up on his iPad and get him to understand how to use Facebook.
So just out of interest, in the weekday, how do you police that? If someone walks in, you say, "Oh, we need to see your limited company number," or how do you? If someone wants to walk in and just have a coffee and a laptop?
Anal about it, but we have to take an email address from everyone, and I don't think Joe Bloggs would want to walk in there anyway. But just say there's a nice gentleman who's retired and he's 60 and he's going out of his box and he sees Business Cafe come up, but he's not got a business, but he thinks, "God, I'd like to go in there and give advice to young people and other businesses." So as long as they've got an interest in it, but we do have a scan in and scan out, so you get a sense of membership and that we track how many people are using it and are we looking after them well.
Great. Okay. So I know you sort of mentioned you're looking for community managers and that. I'm really excited about how this is panning out. Do you have a vision of where the first one's going to be opened, or is it a question of where?
Gail and I have got this absolutely nail biting, and somebody advised me just to lie under a pillow all month. We're waiting for investment to drop in.
I see.
And it's promised to us, and that will give. It's just terrifyingly. I mean, we've worked on that for 18 months, and it's dropping in now because this is the time when high net worths will invest in business ideas because it reduces their tax. And so we've got that nail biting time where it's been promised to us, and I'm obsessively looking on my app at my account to see if anything's coming in.
Okay.
It's terrifying, and that should happen. So we've now started looking for property.
Okay.
And it will be sort of Guildford. It will sort of be near to me, but I won't be the community manager. So Joanne McGowan, who's one of our lovely members, who runs a great hub in Guildford called the Guildford Hub, she's hopefully going to be our community manager. And so hopefully Guildford. But we can scale quite fast with this because of the infrastructure we've got for the people that are running the cafe for us. So anybody that's interested being an ambassador and wants one in their town, I'd love them to contact me.
Great. Sounds really exciting. So we've got some comments here. We've got, Michelle said we're live with 30 minutes in. Digital is physical, Leftera says, which is great. Because Caroline says there is much excess experience and skilled 60 plus sitting out there waiting to be asked. Yeah, there is. And the thing is, I saw yesterday that the average age that someone's living to is 77, 80. So at 60, they're so vibrant, they're so full of energy that...
Exactly. In fact, we've got two members, Glenda Shawley, who's written a book called Founders at 40, and we've got Angus Grady, a fantastic guy I'm meeting next week, who is a social media expert, and he focuses on helping over 50s. So we've got people in the community that can.
So yeah, we just talked about the business game, which sounds a really exciting concept. So you've got a brochure or something coming out next week, you mentioned?
Yeah, it's actually beautiful. It's a 32-page stitch-bound, really nice thing that explains the franchise and what we're doing, and we're very proud of it. But it'll be a PDF as well.
Good.
I mean, it sounds rather dramatic, but I think when you're selling something and you're trying to promote something like this, we need to give it gravitas.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this final question relating to the Business Cafe is, what impact do you think it will make when it comes to fruition? Like, you've got 25 cafes around the UK. Is this an international project or is it a UK project?
So to answer the second thing first, yes, I think it will go international because I've had people asking us, and there's no reason why it can't. I mean, we've got to be really careful that we don't expand too quickly, and that's a nice problem to have. But I think with the Academy members that used to run groups, I think it might start getting out there, but we've not said till year 3. But we'll see. See how our funding's going.
Okay. So what impact do you think it will have on the younger generation and SMEs?
I think it's for the younger generation. Hopefully, it will give them a lot more context about the offline world and business, because we know they're digitally skilled. But we also know that they struggle face to face a lot, and we know that their digital skills don't have the contextualization around business. And so I don't know if you've heard of the phrase reverse mentoring, but reverse mentoring is when a young person mentors an older person. It's very powerful, and Thomas set it up in Accenture as a buddying thing, and so I think that will help a lot with that. In terms of in the wider society, I think it really will show every town that it is a business community. Whether I'm a retired little lady walking my dog around a park, or whether I'm a 10-year-old child wondering what I'm going to do in the future, it's on the high street. It's going to put business on the high street, and through the windows you're going to be able to see this buzz. And having this venue is going to allow us to invite people in. And I don't know, I just hope that it really puts micro business and freelance people on the map.
It'd be great. Right, so we're going to move on to these 10 questions. So I've come up with 10 questions, and So to get under the skin of the individual behind the business. So I'll just fire the questions to you, Penny, and you just give me either a one-word answer or maybe a one-sentence answer to the questions. All good? Right.
Yep.
So question number one: who is your hero?
Thomas.
Why is he your hero?
Wow.
Did you know that, Tom?
He's my hero because he set me on fire and has loved me like nobody else has, and given me the confidence to be me, and been an amazing dad. And his pillow talk can be bloody boring, but he does keep me up to date with technology, you know.
Good, absolutely. Second question: what book do you think entrepreneurs need to read?
I hated this question because I'm such a poor reader, but I think start with why. I think, although it sounds a bit fluffy, I think businesses forget how to communicate their why, and I think it's important to learn that.
Mm-hmm. Good. Whose work do you admire?
I have to say, my business partner, Gail Thomas, I just think she's phenomenal. She's phenomenal with her pace, her attitude, her sense of detail, her values. Yeah, Gail.
Just on that, just to give insight to people, there may be other people out there who know that they have to find someone that's going to be their right hand person. How did you know Gail was the right person?
Honestly, because she's been through a lot of shit, just like I have. And I think people are much richer for the adversity that they've been through, as long as they're willing to apply those lessons and strive forward even more.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's the one big thing that will change the way people live their lives?
The business cafe.
I like it. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
She's got Thomas power.
Yeah.
It would be to spot arseholes quickly.
So my answer to that is you already have that superpower.
Do I? Thomas and I actually used to say that Academy became a ADS, an arsehole detection system. Okay. And you do need to learn very quickly, and I think age can help that. Yeah. Okay.
The definition of an arsehole is what? Not authentic?
Just someone who's completely out for themselves. Yeah, and takes.
Okay. What do you know to be true that others disagree on?
The power of friendship in business, and I think a lot of larger companies and older, more seasoned business people who haven't yet embraced it can't see that power.
Okay. And when they do, what do you think the impact will be?
They'll innovate, they'll be happier, they'll grow their business, people want to work with them, they'll attract the right millennials.
Fantastic. What was the first experience in your life when you realised you had the power to do something meaningful?
It was when I was about 11, and a boy moved next door who was hugely cerebral palsic, and every day after school and during the school holidays I used to go down and be with him, and I learned a lot about people who have massive challenges but maintain beauty in themselves.
Wow. Wow. What's the single biggest obstacle you had to overcome?
Debt. Massive. Yeah.
What film would you say everyone should watch in their lifetime?
Pride and Prejudice. The BBC series. Okay. Learn how to be as gorgeous as those people. Not that I am always politically correct. And Darcy was bloody sexy when he came out of the lake. So.
Okay, good. And final question: what do you want your legacy to be?
I think the business cafe. You know, why with Starbucks is spread across the world with their coffee and whatever their culture is. I can't see why we can't, and change the world bit by bit with that.
Great. Well, listen, it's been fantastic, Penny. Thank you for your time. Apologies for the technology issues. We finally got there after 4 or 5 broadcasts. So that's good. We've got a Wendy. No, Mary says on the Facebook, friendship's such an important motivator in business, and large corporations often forget this. Great. So can I just ask people who are on the full feed eventually? We've got 5-6 people here. Wendy, Mary, Michelle. Do you have any questions or any comments that you have for Penny or myself before we end this broadcast. Obviously, the 2 recordings will be available on the Business Cafe, so you can share those later on. And what I'll aim to do is download both of those and create a one video around YouTube. But yeah, fascinating. Any final comments, Penny?
No, but what I've been interviewed a lot. You're awesome, Beju.
Oh, oh, thank you.
Those were great questions. Loved it. Very generous with your questions, and really, really made me think. So thank you.
Oh, fantastic! No, it's been a pleasure, Brisbane. Thank you for coming on to the Impact Club show, and this show is for anybody who's making an impact and wants to make impact. So if you want to be featured, drop me a PM and let us know. And you're off to the Fat Duck restaurant
because Thomas won a bet on July last year saying that Donald Trump would win the election.
And he obviously won the bet.
And the bet was £1,000 lunch.
Wow, is that what it is?
Well, apparently, I feel very guilty, and I shouldn't really have eaten all week.
You're vegetarian, so is it like a 10-course meal or something going off?
I don't know, but they've asked us some very peculiar questions about our lifestyle in preparation, so we'll see. I'll have to send some photos.
Are you allowed to do a Facebook Live from there?
I don't know.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
We could do a Facebook Live and maybe sort of show the courses, and so that'll be fantastic. Great. Listen, it's been fascinating talking to you, Penny. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. We've got Michelle here, Wendy, Mary, Fabian. Thank you so much. So please watch the recording. If you're watching the recording, please put some comments, and we can continue the conversation after the broadcast. Have a great day, and we'll catch up soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye.